Good afternoon, this is TTT Live and TTT Live Online on Facebook. I'm Dike Rostant with a COVID-19 review. VAT refunds are one government action used to alleviate financial difficulty caused by COVID-19 stay-at-home measures. Minister of Finance Colm Imbert called a media briefing today to clarify an issue based on a circular that was issued by an accounting firm that may have led some to believe that companies that owed taxes would not receive any VAT refund bonds. The minister outlined that individual refunds have been paid regardless of the amount. Company refunds of $500,000 or less have also been refunded. Both of these categories have received refunds in cash. Any liability outstanding will be deducted from VAT bonds before issuance, but they will be issued. To date, May 26, almost $450 million in VAT bonds have been processed, and the Inland Revenue is contacting companies by phone to collect their refunds. Outside of VAT refunds, Minister Imbert also said that another $100 million has been earmarked for small and medium businesses through an injection of funds into the credit unions. And COVID-19 has disrupted many things in our day-to-day lives. The way we communicate is among that list, virtual media briefings included. Kim CS Kirton is a communications architect taking the time to talk about communications during COVID. Good afternoon, Ms. Kirton. How are you?
Hello, Dike. How are you? Thank you guys for having me.
Our pleasure. I'm wondering, what has the pandemic shown you about communications in Trinidad and Tobago?
Well, I would say that it has shown us quite a lot. I wanted to very quickly just go over the definition of communication so that it can kind of inform the discussion, very short discussion this afternoon. And of course, my definition is from Professor Agri Brown, late and great, and I know that you know Prof very well, DK. He would have been a former director of CARIMAC, Caribbean Institute of Media and Communications in Mona, Jamaica, and he would have also been a former head of the Faculty of Humanities. And he has defined communications as the interactive transference of shared meaning between intelligences. And even though that sounds like a mouthful, what he really was trying to highlight would have been the social aspect of communications in terms of it being interactive, the transference being that a medium, some sort of medium is needed. So whether verbal, digital, electronic, and so on. Shared meaning, meaning that on some level, each person, each party that is communicating must have some sort of common barrier, whether it be language or culture, gesture, and intelligences, meaning that it must be, the communication must happen between persons or beings that can acquire and apply knowledge. And so I'm an intelligence, you're an intelligence. If you have a puppy, your puppy's an intelligence. So I just thought that that might be good for us to sort of start the conversation. And in terms of what the pandemic has shown us about communication, specifically in Trinidad and Tobago, I would like to center my response to that around one word, and that word is capable. It has shown us that as Trinbagonians, we are ultimately capable. We are capable of adapting to this unprecedented time, as well as adapting our communication style set. And if I can continue a little bit, on the macro level, I would like to say that communication has, COVID has shown us that governing bodies are capable. They are capable of communicating with us. They are capable of updating us and of doing so frequently and on a scheduled basis. It has shown us that the capability is there. It has also shown us that governing bodies are capable of adjusting and of using a hybrid of both traditional as well as non-traditional, more modern day technology to communicate with us, even if it hadn't been used prior or very heavily at all. And we see that very clearly in the example of the virtual press conferences, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. It is very clear that we are shown that government bodies are capable of doing this through communication. It has also shown us that these governing bodies are capable of being responsive and timely, you know, and I'm referring here to the early days when the pandemic had just started. And we may have received a press release from the Ministry of Health at 11 p.m. at night. showing how responsive they can be, how timely they can be. Yeah, so that is on the very macro level. In terms of bringing it down now to the business level of things, business level B2B, B2C, we see us in a similar vein that the business community is capable of communicating with customers digitally. Businesses are capable of conducting their transactions online, via voice, digitally, and e-commerce has literally boomed, and COVID has highlighted that for us. Many businesses are online, accepting transactions online, and it took COVID to highlight that for us, that we are capable of doing that. The entertainment industry, in terms of that side of business, it has shown us that online events are possible. You know, the clash between Bounty Killer and Beanie Man is the best example of that over the weekend. Even local entertainment entities, DJs, you know, they constantly are alive, providing entertainment for viewers. And another example is Habitat for Humanity, who is, for the month of May, they have done or are doing a virtual 5K. So who would have ever thought that you'd be able to do a virtual 5K? So again, COVID has shown us our capabilities, how capable we are. Businesses are also capable of shifting their messaging, and COVID has shown us that they can very well shift their messaging from very tough sales push to more gentle CSR, corporate social responsibility push, and have that very much be part of their strategies going forward. Even internationally, you've seen that with brands like, say, T-Mobile or Coke, who have ceased advertising that encourages people to gather at their stores and so on, towards more CSR type communication. So COVID has definitely showed us that. And one big one, I would say, in closing of that, is that COVID has shown businesses that remote work is indeed possible.
Responding to some of the things that you said and using that as a jump-off point to my next question.
I'm barely hearing you, Dike.
All right, in terms of some of the things that you have said and using that as a jump-off point to the next question, you spoke about the clash with Beanie and Bounty. Even though that is one of the highest rated or viewed versus events, there was still that physical nature because they were in the same space. And looking at the timely response to, or sending out presses or sending out information from the Ministry of Health, you're seeing that they also had to go to correct some things that people were using their letterheads and making sure that the abuse of that information was not taking place. So what are some of the things we need to be mindful of in terms of moving back to physical spaces and working a little less remotely from home?
I think that that shift, just like the shift in working from home, would have been a challenge for some. I think the shift in moving back to in-office activity will be a great challenge. And many companies, many leaders, many CEOs are going to have to really ramp up their communication. They're going to have to, as you said, bear very much in mind that they're going to have to communicate even more, and maybe even so over-communicate at times. Simply because you have to maintain a sense of safety for your staff, to get everybody on the same page, and for everybody to embrace that vision, that shared vision of what is coming next. So companies certainly need to bear in mind that communication is going to play an integral role in the shift back to normal. In terms of the use of ministry letterheads and so on, you know, everything has its positives and its negatives, and that is definitely one of them. But again, responsiveness will assist with that in terms of indicating, okay, from the ministry themselves, this is a valid statement, this is not a valid statement, and that type of thing. There's always a solution to every problem.
And in finding those solutions, is it more a matter of having the mindset, or is it more a matter of having the right technology to deal with that communication aspect?
I think actually it's both. Mindset is important for both the business themselves, whether it's a government institution, whether it's a private entity, as well as for the employees of that company or institution. You have to be in a mindset of understanding that a large shift has just happened and you are about to shift back into a new dynamic again. And so with that understanding, companies need to have that sort of empathy for their not only their customers, but their staff, because the staff is the lifeblood of the organization. And so that there may be need for a cultural shift if your company isn't already operating off of a level of three things really: trust, respect, and clear accountability and communication structures. Because trust and respect kind of go hand in hand. If a company, say a company manager, shows that he has trust and respect in his team, as well as accountability and communication structures to say, okay, this is what I expect of you, then I think that, you know, there will be little to no problem or worry. In terms of the technology and working from home, many people have had to quickly get on board with video conferencing, teleconferencing, apps, group chats, and that type of thing. Because, of course, you need to have that connectivity. As human beings, we need to be connected, and even more so in making business decisions, connectivity needs to be there. So even in making the shift back, it is unlikely that companies are going to 100% have all of their staff return at the same time. And I think that that is not recommended at all. Just like we as Trinidad and Tobago are phasing back in, I think that I would hope that companies would also phase the return of their staff, you know, in a similar way. And so all of those plans will need to be communicated. And again, at the heart of it is communication.
And I want to thank you for your time with us, also sharing that definition from Professor Agri Brown. And that's been the communications architect, Kim CS Kirton, speaking about communication as we phase back into the workplace in a physical sense as opposed to just remotely. But we continue with this COVID review, and US President Donald Trump has threatened to relocate the Republican National Convention if restrictions are placed on the crowd size due to the coronavirus pandemic. More on this story in our roundup of major international news stories.
The Republican National Convention is due to take place in North Carolina from the 24th to the 27th of August. On Monday, however, Mr. Trump said he would move the site of the convention if full attendance is not guaranteed. Mr. Trump said the North Carolina Democrat Governor Roy Cooper was still in a shutdown mood. Governments in Europe are mulling an end to border controls as the outbreak eases across many parts of Europe. Germany is considering lifting its travel warning for a number of European countries, while Denmark has made it easier for couples to see each other again. Meanwhile, an invasion of desert locusts has hit regions in India and Pakistan in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. Large and aggressive swarms of these crop-devouring short-horned insects have invaded more than 24 districts, covering more than 50,000 hectares of desert areas of western India. Finally, doctors have accused Egypt's health ministry of negligence in its handling of COVID-19 and says it bears full responsibility for medics' deaths. A union said on Monday that 19 doctors had so far died from the disease and more than 350 others had been infected. It blamed a lack of personal protective equipment and beds for sickened staff and warned that the system could collapse. Vidya Ramphal, TTT News.
And that's what's trending on COVID-19. Remember, you can join us for live coverage on TTT, Talk City 91.1 FM, Suite 100, as well as on Facebook at TTT Live Online for all your COVID-19 updates. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of the TTT crew, I'm Dike Rostant.